You're watching Promethean Action Strategic Overview for Monday, October 27th, 2025, with Keisha Rogers. Keisha Rogers was a close associate of Lyndon LaRouche for many years, one of the leaders of his work in Texas, a congressional candidate there, and specialized in this U.S. space program, which she came to be an expert on. Brian Lance is also on the line, ready to join and participate in our discussion. Keisha's titled this overview, Trump's Nuclear Revolution Powers America First. So with that, let me hand it over to Keisha.
All right. Thanks, Tony. What an introduction. Okay. Hi, guys. I know most of you know me from discussions here with Michael Steger, and we're going to change roles today because Michael is actually celebrating his birthday. So we want to give a happy birthday to Michael Steger. And I'm going to just lead a discussion with everything that's transpiring in our country. The focus of President Trump on putting an end to the ongoing conflicts of war has been absolutely on the minds of everyone. And we can get into further discussion a little bit later on about the remarkable developments that are happening with his travels to various nations in discussions of economic advancements, of discussions of scientific advancements, but also what's happening on his continued drive to put an end to wars and bring about negotiations amongst nations that are leading to very important developments in terms of the role of the United States in leading the world to peace. And as President Trump has said, peace comes through strength, peace comes through economic development. Now, what I want to focus on tonight, while many people may be wondering what is happening in our country, where you have the insanity of the Democrats continuing to push outrageous policies that are keeping our government shut down, wanting to, as we've announced before, give health care to illegal immigrants, policies pushing for more green environmentalist agenda, and continuing the destructive policies that have led our nation in the wrong direction until President Trump came into office. And so I want to bring a little bit of hope and exciting news as to what's going on that's not really being discussed in the media, which is that this past week, many of you may not know, but we celebrated Nuclear Science Week. And I want to give a little bit of a report on what I had the opportunity to do and some of the breaking developments that's going on under the leadership and vision of President Trump. And this past weekend on Friday, I went out. I now reside here in Northeast Tennessee. I've been here with my husband and family for 3 years now. And I took the opportunity to go out to the American Museum of Science and Energy, where they held a major event on Nuclear Science Week. And there were a number of participants there from all different industries. So this is where Oak Ridge National Laboratories is. And this is the birthplace of the Manhattan Project and the developments of the research that went on in the development of the atomic nucleus, the atomic atom, work on nuclear science. And Oak Ridge has become a very prominent place for fulfilling President Trump's vision today for the advancements in nuclear science and making the United States a leader in energy dominance and energy development. And so many of you, as I said in my email if you had a chance to read it. When you think about nuclear science and the advancements of nuclear, a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind is looking at energy production, fuel cycles. How do you produce more fuel for your reactor systems? How do you look at fusion and fission power, the splitting of atoms and the fusing of atoms? And how do we look at from the standpoint of the harnessing of the stars and the sun? And so the Department of Energy under the Secretary Chris Wright has been involved in some major developments in all of these areas, particularly around the question of the advancement of fission reaction and nuclear power that is developing and advancing our nuclear systems in terms of the nuclear power plants that we have right now. I think it's been Brian Lance has done quite a bit of work on this, and I am going to refer back to his work from the standpoint of the book that he wrote that we can put in the chat and make available later for people on the question of President Trump's rebuilding of America and looking at what is needed to ensure that we have the power systems of the advancements of nuclear power for building more reactor systems. But and we can look into that a little bit more. But the other thing that I wanted to discuss is other areas of development that are going on. So as I said, Oak Ridge National Laboratories, they are working on a number of projects, which include advancements from the DOE, Department of Energy, and funding that is coming to the area on fuel systems, developing new materials for reactor systems that are going to private partnerships. And you have private companies that are coming in, TerraPower, X Energy. These are a number of the companies that spoke at this conference or this event that I went to on this past weekend on what they're doing to replace the dependency of the United States that has been dependent for a very long time on Russian systems for uranium production and for fuel production on Russia, the nation of Russia, and bringing in companies that can start to develop these systems for the United States directly here in the United States. And so you have part of one of the companies that was very instrumental in that and who received who was there as well. You had Oak Ridge National Laboratories this past month or just this month received a reward to accelerate nuclear fuel cycle research. And the Oak Ridge National Laboratories and Oak Ridge, Tennessee was given one of the largest grants and funding resources that it has ever been given for advancing these nuclear fuel cycles and research development. So, but the other aspect of the discussion that came up is what other technologies are being advanced at this time for using nuclear science. And one of the most remarkable developments that we heard about was what's going on in medical isotopes and medical technologies. And I think that as President Trump has developed under his Department of Energy and with the scientific developments, his drive toward what has been identified as the gold standard in science. And I spoke with Brian Lentz. He did a presentation on this on President Trump just announcing a few months back at the beginning of his presidency, the unleashing of a gold standard in science. This goes hand in hand with what President Trump has developed around the vision for a new golden age in scientific advancements, technological advancements, and a new golden age for America. And this is taking off in many ways. You have in order to actually advance this vision for golden age of America, you have to have economic advancements on all different fronts in all industries. And this means you have to put your population to work again in making breakthroughs in creative discoveries beyond anything that we've ever seen. And this is what we're seeing right now is not just advancements in AI, in new technologies, but also a leaping into a new renaissance of scientific advancements that is going to transform and save lives. And so when you think about nuclear science, the idea that we can completely transform the life of human beings and ensure that longevity of life is preserved and that human beings can live longer by fighting against ongoing diseases and cancers. I think that what we're seeing right now in terms of what's coming out of the vision of this administration under President Trump, under his cabinet, people like Chris Wright, who was the energy secretary, is that we are looking at the combination of the development of breakthroughs in new scientific advancements in medical science, in nuclear science, that is going hand in hand with what we are seeing with not only the Make America Great Again, but the Make America Healthy Again aspect of the Trump vision. And this is not just a question of dealing with questions of what's happened in our pharmaceutical sector, what's happened in the destruction of our food, in what's happened with the policies that have led to more people having to eat processed foods and all of the things and also what's being developed right now coming out of some of the targets that is going on in the Make America Healthy Again under Secretary of Human Health and Science, Robert Kennedy Jr. But you see this from the standpoint of how it is absolutely advancing under these new breakthroughs that are going on. And the breakthroughs that I want to talk about today that were expressed to us in this discussion are how nuclear science is revolutionizing medical research and medical isotopes. So one of the companies that were there represented at this event at the American Museum of Science and Energy was a company called Isotech. And their role has been that the U.S. Department of Energy has contracted with this company to take the spent uranium that is located in Oak Ridge. This is uranium 233 that was once said back in the 1950s and 60s. This stockpile of uranium was going to be used for advancing fuel cycles and fuel, but was later found to be radioactive, dangerous, and not fit. And so it has been sort of sitting in a stockpile and underground and not being used for a very long time. And although a long time ago, the Oak Ridge National Laboratories knew that there was a sister product that would come from this uranium 233 that would be absolutely critical for breakthroughs in medical research. And later on, what they found is first thing that one of the sister products was thorium 229. And this thorium would be extracted from the stockpiles of the uranium 233 that was going to be disposed of. This is what the role of this company is to dispose of this uranium. But before they do, they were finding that it actually had useful resources and materials that could be used in other materials capability, and that being extracting thorium 229, and that was also found to be a byproduct of that is what's called a material that's called actinium, and it's actinium 225. And so the importance of this, and I'll just say now that I am not a doctor, and the research and what I'm doing on this is my passion for the making sure that people understand how these scientific advancements relate directly to what's going on with them in you in your lives, and making sure that you understand that this relates directly to what President Trump is doing in his advancements in his scientific developments for a gold standard in science, but also what he is calling for and his administration, unlike anyone else, has called for in terms of a Make America Healthy Again program, which I am a very strong proponent of. So I want to go just kind of hone in on this medical breakthrough a bit and how it works, because I found it quite fascinating. One, because there has been quite a bit of research that has been going on in terms of how to develop therapeutics and therapies for cancer research, and how this relates to the industries of nuclear science. And so back in 2018, you had the development of what Oak Ridge was doing in terms of realizing that this material of actinium 225 would be instrumental in targeting therapies for cancer. And I want to show you in a second how that actually works here. I have a, and let me just say, first of all, that the company that I was mentioning earlier, Isotech, one of the partners that they have that's actually extracting this material from the thorium and from the spent uranium that's being processed before disposal, is a company that most of you might be well familiar with, that is also one of the first companies to advance nuclear reactors, which is TerraPower. And TerraPower has a spinoff, or has a research aspect to it, which is called TerraPower isotopes. And they have a number of researchers who are taking the isotopes of the thorium 229 and turning that or developing the actinium 225 and then taking that and giving it to a number of research facilities or hospitals that are directly giving it to patients for cancer treatments. And so prior to this happening, this was the actinium 225 and its advancement for direct targeting of cancer tumors without impacting the healthy cells of other cells of the human body was actually first sent over to a hospital in Germany that got some of the actinium and put it into a patient in Germany. And I want to show you just how this works here. Let me see if I can find this image that I have quickly here. All right. See if I can get this to work. Here we go. So that might be a little bit small to see, but let's see if I can. Here we go. Make that bigger. There we go. So what you're looking at here is a cancer patient a PET scan of a cancer patient with prostate cancer. And the first one is the PET scan. They're given the first round, they're given one dose of the actinium 225 that goes right to the cancer tumors. And you can see from A to B where just in the first dosages of this therapy that they a major decrease in the cancer that's attacking the body. And then in the C there, you see that they're given another dosage of the actinium, and it almost completely eliminates the cancers there. And so this is just one example. This is all over the place. You can see and read more about this research. This is what they showed at the event, and also that more of this is found in an article on how scientists discovered a new way to produce actinium 225, a rare medical radioisotope. So you can look into that row, and I'll just take this down here for a second. Okay. Now, the important thing about this, which is very interesting, is that as I said before, this medical research and this material directly targets a cancer tumor or cell without harming other aspects of the body. But more importantly, it is defined as what's called an alpha emitter. And this is why it is so potent, because at the same time, this material or this therapy can be very dangerous to the body if it is not approached in a very precise targeting of the cancer cell. But because of the research and because of some of the breakthroughs that have been done, especially by TerraPower and by some of the other related companies, there has been some tremendous breakthroughs in this area. And what was fascinating about this to me is that some of you may remember that I did a little bit of research, and what President Trump is doing is in terms of his understanding of the importance of nuclear science, both in the aspects of fuel systems for advancing power, for energy, for rocket power, which we heard a lot about at this event also. But he also understands the power of nuclear science in medicine because of the work that his uncle, John G. Trump, did. And I'm not going to go into that very much, but I did do a class several months back that can be found on Trump's work on the particle accelerator and the X volt generator that was instrumental in some of the early stages of cancer research. And this was being done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he was a professor for many decades. He worked alongside a gentleman by the name of Van de Graaff, who they both developed some of the earliest signs of radiation therapy and technologies that would do similarly to the advancements we're seeing today, that would target research for therapies that would target the direct tumors and cancer cells through their million volt X-ray generators that they were advancing at the time. So this was X-ray technologies, and you've advanced even far beyond that to alpha particle technologies that are revolutionizing the developments in nuclear science and medicine. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on in terms of, you have, as I said, you have breakthroughs in nuclear science from the standpoint of fuel reactor systems, new power plants that are being built, what's going on in the advancements of nuclear science in space applications, and what we're seeing right now from the Trump administration in the development of nuclear power systems and fission power systems for the moon through his Artemis program. That came up in discussions, and there is work going on also at MIT with their nuclear reactor system for this advancement. And I'll just say that right before I got on this call, there was an announcement by this Secretary Chris Wright that he was putting on X, that he had just met with the representatives of the Glenn Research Center, Space Research Center, that is being responsible for developing the reactor system that has been called for under this administration for developing space fission systems on the moon for powering the moon for the Artemis crew that will be going to the moon for long-term exploration and stay there. And we'll hear more about that. The other thing that came out today, just to kind of give an update, is that the Department of Energy announced a $1 billion partnership with Advanced Micro Devices, or AMD, to build new superconductors. And the importance of this is going hand in hand with some continued advancements on the research in nuclear sciences. But so part of what it's going to consist of is these massive supercomputers are going to be used for modeling, simulating physics of plasma and development of plasma research, which is instrumental for harnessing fusion, harnessing the power of the sun, as well as the computer systems are going to accelerate discoveries of and developments of new drugs and therapeutics and therapies for cancer treatments, for other medical treatments as well. So that's what is coming out of the Trump administration on the rapid developments of what his vision is for a gold standard in scientific advancements and technologies. So it's pretty fascinating to see all of this going on while people have tunnel vision and maybe elsewhere where what President Trump has committed to put an end to the destructive policies of the previous administrations, to destroy the advancements of our country, pushing for the agendas of population reduction, the green agenda that is taking away the production of new scientific and technological breakthroughs by saying that we want to focus on man-made destruction of human beings, anthropogenic destruction of our inner of our uh, energy resources, which they're calling for, or saying that it is based on the fact that human beings are breathing too much, using too much power, and that we have to stop scientific and advancements. And so this is being targeted and attacked directly by President Trump and his rapid pace of development in making the United States not only a leader in energy dominance, but to ensure that we're making breakthroughs in every level of our society. And what this means is going back to, I want to lastly share a major breakthrough on this front that's happened in a new roadmap and that has been put out by the Energy Department and the Trump administration, which is about a 52-page roadmap. I'll just share this with you quickly here. Let's see. Here we go. Oop, second. Okay, now you can see that. So this is the new roadmap for fusion technology that has been put out by the Trump administration. And it's, as I said, it's about 52 pages and it outlines some of the key areas in how we, what's called the platform for growth, innovation, and I'm trying to remember the other innovation and growth through advancements of fusion technology. And so this roadmap lays out a short-term perspective on some of the technologies that have to be advanced, where they develop a summary of some of the key milestones and challenges across this platform of fusion science and technology, which lay out areas for what needs to be developed in near term, which is 2 to 3 years, focusing on structural materials and scientific advancements on plasma research development and materials, and then also on advancing approaches in terms of workforce development as well, and how we're going to train up the workforce that's needed to ensure that this goal or vision for Fusion Science and Technology Roadmap is starting to be met or realized not in 30 or 40 years, but really by 2030. So it is a rapid vision and pace of developments for something that has been in place and has been at the forefront of what should have happened a very long time ago. But now, under the visionary leadership of this administration, we are seeing breakthroughs that unlike anything we've ever seen before. So we'll come back to that. I am not prepared to do a full um, a full discussion on this roadmap yet. There's a lot to unfold in it. And what I hope to do is that we're going to do some ongoing classes, but also I'll be putting out on my X page and in collaboration with Promethean Action, some more reports on some of these breakthroughs and developments. But I thought it would be important for me to just give you an idea of what is unfolding right now in terms of something that people thought they would never get to, but has been since 2022 with the advancements at Livermore National Laboratories, which we've talked about in terms of some of the breakthroughs in inertial confinement fusion and what they did with the using of the lasers to target a pellet of deuterium and tritium reactor for gaining, and they've since then done this accomplishment several other times. Just as an example of how close we are to the harnessing of commercial fusion. This is what this is about. Can we get commercial fusion in a rapid pace of time? Under this platform or under this roadmap, it's saying that we can get to commercial fusion in really less than a decade. So that's pretty fascinating. So with that, I'm going to just kind of end my comments there. And there's probably some questions or people who work in these industries of in fields of nuclear science or had an opportunity to participate in any of the 2025 Nuclear Science Week activities or discussions, or then I would love to hear from you. And so we are here to talk to take any questions on some of the other international strategic breaking developments that are going on. But I wanted to kind of give that overview as to what is transforming in our society and why we are very close to realizing as we enter into going into the 250th anniversary of the founding of our republic. We were founded by great pioneers that have led our nation on pioneering all kinds of exploration, discoveries, and breakthroughs that will move us forward into the future if we continue to have the type of vision that our founding fathers had and not allow for the imperial rulers of a globalist agenda or those who want to push population reduction to get away with the crimes that they have been getting away with for too long. And I'll just say thank God that we have a leader who has a vision that is moving to advance that creative spirit of our nation once again. So let me just stop there and see what y'all have.